Hello, family. Welcome back to Concretepastures. I'm Nancy Mulemwa-Sisi. For anybody who is new, this is a platform where we highlight immigrants who have relocated to different countries in search of greener pastures. We share our stories and our various experiences and lessons we've learned along the way and offer perspective on our journey as immigrants. So whether you are currently an immigrant, a soon or later to be immigrant, or just curious, come along with us on this journey and let's get a better understanding of what it really means to be an immigrant. Subscribe, like, and share. You've been with us for a while. You should be subscribing back this time. Come on. All right. And we thank you for all of you that have subscribed already. We are growing this community and we can only grow with you subscribing and sharing and liking the content. On today's episode, oh my God, this is an interesting one. I'm truly, truly curious and I'm constantly learning. I'm really a student of life. And I met our guest through our girl, Michelle Gardner. She spoke highly of our guest today, and I got very curious. She owns her own podcast, which is Black Adoptees Identities. It's an interesting podcast. There's so much to learn. It's an eye-opening podcast. I encourage each and every one of you to take a listen. It's really informative. Without further ado, her name is Christelle Pellecuer. She is a certified coach who helps adoptees to navigate their stories so they can find their own authentic voices and identities. Christelle is also a facilitator, consultant, and multidisciplinary artist and podcast host, like I said, for Black Adoptees Identities. Christelle's professional background includes working in the educational sector for over 15 years, undertaking program project management roles with an international focus, and working for 10 years in the fashion industry. She also has led a nonprofit organization and colleagues a community theater company. I'm super honored and excited. Welcome, Christelle. Thank you for joining.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Oh my God. How's your day going? We have a 6 hour time difference, right? You are in Portugal now.
Yes, I am. Yes, my day, no, it's been good. I'm glad. I was in the UK last week and I'm back in Portugal now. So at least I'm back in the sunshine.
Oh my God. Is it warm all year round or how is the weather?
It's not warm all year round, but it doesn't get that cold. You know, you go down to 9 degrees in the winter maybe, and but yeah, that's
Wow.
quite mild compared to the UK.
Some of us we are jealous because in New York it's winter time now. Today is actually not that bad. It's like 54 today is going to
Right.
be. So it's not that bad Fahrenheit. But we love to get to know our guests. Today we're talking about navigating adoption. And for you, you are here to share your own story. I want to start from Madagascar. You're our first guest from Madagascar, by the way.
Hey. And I can see in your background, there's the map of Africa, and you've got Madagascar sticking out on the side.
Yeah, representation, okay?
Yes.
So how was it growing up in Madagascar? I know you left at 10 years old, but do you have any memories during that time?
Yes, I mean, yeah, 10 years old, you have plenty of memories. And I mean, my fondest memories is, you know, playing on the beach, running around, dancing with the other children in the street, or on fire. Yeah, it's fond memories and joyful memories. And Madagascar is quite poor country compared to the rest of Africa. So
Mhm.
in terms of infrastructure, it's quite basic, and also in terms of the standard of living is very basic, but at the same time, you know, it didn't stop me from having that joyful,
Yeah.
you know, childhood there.
Oh no, beautiful, beautiful. So what I guess activated you being adopted?
So my birth mother was unwell around the time I was probably 6, 7 years old. So she was back and forth to hospital. And the last time she went back to hospital, she left me with the Catholic missionary that was set up in the village. And it turned out that she never came back because she passed away in hospital the last
So
time
sorry.
that she went. Thank you. And then from there, I don't know who made the decision that I should be adopted, because, to this day, it's still not very clear to me what's happened, because I still had family living in the village. I had my grandparents living in another different village. I've had uncles. And so I don't know who made the exact decision. But from the Catholic missionary, I was put into an orphanage. And from the orphanage, I was adopted in France by a French couple.
Got it. This is a new term I learned from listening to your podcast, transracial adoption.
Yes.
So yeah, I was like, wow, I didn't know there was even a term like that. So with transracial adoption, how have you, I guess, growing up in that space with your parents? They were white?
Yes. So that's why the term
Yes.
come from,
So
because
I just want to
you have
confirm.
it's all so the transracial, generally when you are a transracial adoptee, that means that you are adopted into a different race from where you come from. So I was adopted into a white family.
Okay, how was that growing up? Like, I can't imagine coming from, Madagascar, and then at 10 years old, you are fully, I think you're aware, I would say, and going to a white family. Were you the only child for them?
No, my adoptive parents already had 2 biological children.
Okay,
And my mother was also a foster parent, so there's a lot of children around the house. So it was, two my siblings, so the 2 they had, and then there was probably about 4 or 5 other children from the foster care system.
got it.
But I was the only one, when I arrived, I was the only one who was Black. So my whole surrounding was into this white community and white family. So that's a bit difficult in itself in terms. I mean, there's already the culture shock, because between Madagascar and France, there is a huge culture difference. But when he also never lived with a white family before, it's quite difficult to integrate in a way. And also, I think in my case, and I think it happens with a lot of adoption, families are not always prepared in terms of culture to welcome this child from a different culture.
Yes.
So for me, that was really difficult, because I had to integrate into this new culture and into this new family. But already when I was in the orphanage, I was already being prepared to be adopted. So I was already asked to not speak my own language when I was at the orphanage. So by the time I was arrived in France, I've already forgotten my own language. So I didn't speak French properly, but I didn't speak my own language anymore. So I think it's kind of a mental block that I had, because the whole transfer was so traumatic that your brain shut down. So I couldn't even speak, but I had nobody else to speak it with anyway. Nobody would understand my own language, because there was nobody from Madagascar around me to be able to practice. So over the years, I completely forgotten that language. And, we also go through, I had my own name changed. So Christelle wasn't my birth name. So you get to bring back a new name. And it's a very common practice in where family change the name of their children when they adopt it,
So
especially
I
if you're
have a
coming.
question.
Yes.
So, I'm sitting here, I'm
I see
shocked
you
already.
like,
I'm
what is happening? You're thinking.
my brain is going overboard right now.
Yes.
I thought listening to your podcast was something, but this is something else. Wait, so from the from your country, they ask you not to speak your language. What language you guys speak?
Malagasy.
Madagascar. So they tell you to stop. So what language are you speaking while you are there?
French. So I
So they are
start having
teaching you
to
how
learn
to speak
French.
French. Also, they
Yes.
were prepping you for a French family.
Yes.
Oh my God. And then what was the reason for changing your name for your parents? Did they ever share with you?
It's a very common. I mean, I don't understand why adoption agency always advise parents to change a child name. It's the best be a reason. I mean, my original name was Rosette, and at the time in France, there was like a brand of sausage that was called Rosette. So my parents thought, oh, we need to change it because you're gonna be teased at school by the other children. But I also know that you know, I had then a younger sister that was adopted into the family as well, and her name was changed as well, and there was nothing wrong or associated to something that was negative with her name, and her name was changed as well. So it's a very, and I know this is one of the, from doing my podcast and speaking with other adoptees, it's very common. You know, a lot of adoptees have had the name change. And yeah, I mean, adoption is start with a loss, because you lost your family. The reason you're adopted is because you've already lost your own family. Then you lose your own culture. And I'm talking specifically for international adoption.
Yeah.
And then you have to lose your name. So your whole identity is thrown out right from the beginning. So that's why adoptive family always see it as a very positive, saving a child and bringing into, you know, a better world in the West. But there is a lot of difficulty associated with just transition into a new culture, into a new family, because your whole identity is being stripped out. You have to learn to adopt another identity, and very often it's imposed on you. You don't really have a choice. You know, I didn't have a choice about changing my name. I didn't have a choice about not continuing to speak my own language anymore. I didn't have a choice about not continuing to embrace my own culture. So everything is continuing through the loss. And that's also, you know, continue in your adult life, because those things impacted you so much as a child that when you grow up, I mean, a lot of us adoptees suffer from issues around abandonment, rejection, separation, attachment, and yeah, it's very difficult then to grow up if you didn't have received the right support throughout your life to be able to get into a healthy state of being and have a healthy identity, because you don't know, you are also stuck between two countries. So you are in, you know, you're trying to be a Black person growing up in a white family. So you are stuck. You don't know if you're Black, if you're white, which way you are white in a Black body, but you are behaving like a white person almost, because you are embedded in that culture. Everything you do is thinking like a white person. And then when you are thrown out into the big world and you meet other Black people, you realize that you're not that Black after all, because you can't recognize how the Black people behave or their own culture, because you've been so
immersed,
you know, emerge into that whiteness. So it's a very difficult place to be, and most of us as adoptees, we don't have the choice because we've been put into that situation. And I would say, you know, adoption is very nuanced, because everybody obviously live it in a different way.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of commonality, and part of my podcast is around identity, because I know a lot of us suffer from identity issues as we grow up, especially in our teenage year, where we're trying to understand who we are. We are completely in confusion and lost, and create, you know, a lot of us also have mental issues, because that confusion creates so much instability, and people then don't have a healthy state of mind. So it's not an easy, you know, you have to really pull yourself together to navigate that world.
Wow. It's I love storytelling, and that's why I love what we do as podcasters. For anybody in the media, where you bring people's stories, and this is far from what I would be listening to, because I guess, like you were saying, like your parents provided a home, or for what we've shared also on your podcast, like a savior mentality, or they take care of this child, and you guys should be grateful. So a lot of people don't really think of what happens to that child during that transition, that during that integration with the new parents. So I'm really thankful for you to bring your platform on, for us to all be informed as to what you do and what you go through. The stories that are there are eye-opening, eye-opening. What have you, before I even ask this question, did you ever sit down with your adoptees, your parents, to ask them what they were going through? Because now that you are doing the podcast, so the other way around, when they took in all of the children, aside from you as well, all of the children, what are they going through as well in there? Because there's also both sides.
Yeah, there is both sides, but I think, I don't know, we've talked bits and pieces about my adoption,
Okay.
but we've never had a full sit-down conversation where, like, for an hour, we go really deep into it. And mostly because a lot of time, for a long time, I was very hurt from the situation, so it was very triggering for me. But also,
so you've had resentment, I would say.
I wouldn't say resentment, but misunderstanding more. I just didn't understand why they wouldn't, for example, teach me about African culture. But I know from conversation with them that they didn't know any better. In their mind, it is about support, providing help, getting me into a better education, a better home, and providing love. But I think my argument has always been, it's not always enough, because on the other side, there's all the emotional state that is very difficult to also navigate. I think the other side of it is, probably I've never really sat down so much with them, is because as adoptee, we get into that state of guilt, because you've been adopted, we should be grateful because you got a better life. But on the other scale, like I say, it's also a very difficult journey. So we don't want to be seen as ungrateful by complaining that our life has not been as better than they expected us to be. And because, they provided, to be fair, without the adoption, I don't know where I would be. I don't know if I would not have had the education I had, that's for sure.
Yes.
Because in Madagascar, I wasn't even going to school every day. So I didn't have this opportunity. So there's a lot of doors that opened for me for the adoption. And I probably I don't know if I would have come to Europe even, there's so much that I don't know where I would have been. So there is that I am thankful for the things that my parents have provided me. So I think that is the part that a lot of us find difficult to really challenge the situation, because people always say you should be grateful. So and as adoptees, very often we shrink ourselves to be comfortable for other people because we don't want to rock the boat. So by saying, oh, my adoption wasn't so good, he didn't take care of me, it's kind of saying I'm not grateful, but from my perspective, we can be grateful, but also I had suffered through the process. it's not one or the other, it's both of those situations. I am grateful, but it hasn't been easy journey. So I think that's the part that I don't think my parents are ready to meet me in the middle and to understand that I am grateful, but it's been difficult. And I don't know if you will get there because, again, I was raised in a state where you don't really challenge your elders.
Yeah.
So that is also a very difficult situation in terms of
I think
how
as
do
Africans, we have
yes.
that.
So how do you challenge that is and it's interesting because I've told my parents I'm doing this podcast, and I'm also writing like a section of Michelle's book.
Yes,
and I've told my mother this yesterday, and I could feel in her that there was that concern, and she was asking, in which language are you writing this book? And I felt that, or maybe she is concerned that I will be speaking up about how I really felt, because we've never had that conversation.
Oh my God. But I mean, even with our biological parents, no one does it right completely. And there's been a lot. Your feelings are valid. I think as all parents, now I'm a parent, all of our, I guess as children, our feelings are valid as we grow up, because our parents are not going to do it correctly or perfect to the way that we would have liked. So that battle, that feeling is not only for you guys, it's also for all of us too. Even with our biological parents, it's kind of similar to that. And growing up, for a lot of homes in Africa, not everybody, you are taught not to question things. So we grow up with that, and I can tell you how much that was a challenge for me living here in America, because you keep your culture and it doesn't work to where you migrate to. It does not work. So how have you been able to navigate through those challenges of identity and getting to where you are today?
For me, I went back to Madagascar in 2010, and I think that was a very pivotal moment for me, because meeting back with my siblings, my brother, my uncles, and also finding out from my uncle that he didn't even know I was adopted, and that's why I said, I don't know who made the decision. So it was a very emotional, and in a way I wasn't really prepared for going back. But at the same time, I realized that the part of me that I've always felt that was missing with me felt like it was that connection with my birth family and my own culture. So when I came back from Madagascar, that's when I was very much committed to learn about African history, connected with Black community that were around me, watching films that, African films. And so I was very engaged in that for quite a long time. And then I ended up doing a lot of work with Black community from the Caribbean, from Africa, in the city I was living. I did a whole exhibition around African queens. I worked with the women, and we did a short film around African queens as well. So for quite a long time, I really emerged in that culture. And that really helped me to realize, to embrace my Blackness and to reconnect with Madagascar and with the people there. So I think that's kind of saved me to be more stable in myself and really embracing and also accepting that, this is a situation, it happened, I cannot change it. But where do I want to go from there? Do I still want to be stuck in that story, or do I want to move on and look for another way of being and identify myself? And I decided that from that moment, that is when I wanted to embrace myself as a Black woman. And before that, I was always straightening my hair And after that, I was just plaiting my hair or having it natural. But I kind of embraced slowly what it was meant to be a Black woman, and I was not afraid anymore to hang around the Black community, because before I didn't know how. I felt so alien to be around Black people because I didn't know how to behave. So immersing myself into that community has also been really important, because it gives you some representation. For at least for once, I could see people who look like me, and I could understand a bit better how to connect with those people. So that has been really useful for me.
Wow. Are you still connected with your family back home?
I am. We're not that close, but I am planning to go back in 2025. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm very much in contact with my niece. My brother passed away last year, so that was also another moment that I felt like, life is so fragile. You don't know when people are gonna go. So
Yeah.
that made me really want to reconnect. So that's why. And I've got a daughter as well. I think that also was an important moment, because when my daughter was born, I realized that she was the first person that I could relate to in my blood line, because everybody else around me in my family was white. And I didn't want her to go through the same situation as me. So for me, it was really important that I reconnect with my Blackness, so she could also learn about her Blackness and be able to navigate that space on our own town. And I'll be taking her because she's never been. So we'll be going together in 2025.
Oh, that's going to be an experience. How old is she?
Yes, 25.
Oh, she's 25?
Yes.
Oh my God, that's going to be
Yeah.
a lot of memories.
Yeah.
I recently just took my kids in May, and part of our biggest highlight this year, like I was telling you before we started, tomorrow is Thanksgiving for us. So I was going through all of the things that have transpired throughout the year. And I asked my daughter to see um, what was her highlight. And she was like, the trip to Zambia.
Oh,
That was
amazing.
the highlight. She's 9 now. She turned 9 in October. And it was really it was really great. Like, she will remember that for the rest of her life. I can't wait also to go back just to continue having those experiences with my family, because I only have
Yeah,
them.
it's so important. Yes, it's so important.
Yeah. My son is 4, so I didn't even bother to ask him.
I'm sure you will remember.
He only remembers about the plane, that he wants to go on the plane and to Africa. That's it. That's what he remembers. It's something. It's something. It's
Yes.
something.
Oh.
Oh my
He will
God.
be grateful he will be grateful when he's older that you've taken him
Oh,
at
for
that age.
sure. For sure. No, it's something that I'm going to commit to, which I committed to my daughter. I said, I'm going to try to make sure that we come every year, if possible, even twice a year, so we can stay connected. It was great. They were meeting my mom for the first time.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So I can't imagine your daughter. Oh my God, you guys are going to have a ball. And you know how we are back home, so much love.
I know, and the interesting thing is my niece is the same age as my daughter, and they were
Oh,
born in the same month as well. So and
nice.
they've never met. So yeah, they've seen each other in pictures, but they've never met physically. So yeah, I'm looking
Oh
forward to
God. Oh,
that.
that's gonna be really beautiful. I'm happy for you guys to do that.
Thank you.
So on other note, um, I was gonna ask you if you're going to Madagascar, but you have visited. What do you feel? How do you feel about the business side of adoption? Being that in some cases, um, the parents that are adopting have to pay for the babies or the child. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, the business side of adoption is it's not always great. And I always cringe when I hear sometimes some of the children or now adults know found out how much their family would have paid to get them. And that is quite something, at least in my case, I don't know and I don't want to know, because having a price tag against you is again, it's a very difficult thing for your own identity to know that you've been bought. So that's a very difficult. But for me, it's also the fact that there's money exchanging hands and not knowing where this money is going. I know that in America, people pay sometimes people pay up to $30,000 to get to adopt, and for me, that's, I don't know. For me, that's very difficult to swallow, because I feel like, for example, in my case, I had family still there. Can you invest that money and give it to the family being there to look after that child? For me, that is a better option, so the child can stay with the family. If you can afford to pay that much to get the child into your own country, why can't you support the family there to keep that child? So for me, keeping the child together with the family is the priority, and adoption will be the last resort if there is no family there to look after the child, or the family is really unable. For example, if there is stories of drug or violence in the family, then maybe adoptions, but that would be the last resort. And for me, it's not the first option that is available. So when we talk about money and business, and very often, it's similar to charities in a way, because a lot of the agencies are charity, and a lot of money circulate in charity, but it doesn't always go to the place that it's supposed to go. So my question is always, what happened to all this money? What is this money? Because again, a child gets adopted, but the family doesn't get any support, even in terms of cultural support, to raise this child. So why do you spend so much money and you don't even get the support that could help the child? So there's a lot of questions, and so I think there's not enough transparency in the system to really understand what is going on. But from my point of view, if you are going to adopt, there shouldn't be any exchange of money, because if there's money exchange, it's kind of trafficking a child. The child is becoming an object that you are buying, in a sense. So for me, that's a very difficult thing to understand and to accept. I don't know. I mean, I suppose every country have a different system for adoption as well, because I think in the UK, it comes from, there's not as much, I don't think there's as much international adoption. So a lot of the adoption in the UK is through foster care system. So people, the child will come through foster care, and then if the family are not able to look after their children, then they will find a permanent home for them. In America, I suppose it's a very different way of doing it, and there's a lot more
foster care here too, and sometimes people want different type of children, I guess. So adopt internationally. Like anything in life, everybody has their own, choices.
And that is my question again. There's so many children who might need a home in America. Why do we need to go to Africa to adopt a child? And I understand if there's no children that need support in America, and that's why I think I've done domestic adoption is easier for me to understand than international adoption. And I think, and also I would say, there's no education in Africa for family on the ground to also adopt, because there is already this assumption that in Africa, there's nobody who's wealthy enough to adopt a child. So that's why the West have to come in and get the children. But there is, different type of people in Africa. There's wealthy people who can also adopt. So why can't we encourage people on the ground to also adopt children from Africa? Because that will stop the whole confusion about culture and the loss of culture and language, and at least the child is still living in the same culture than where he was raised.
I understand that. I get that actually. I understand that. So, what advice would you give to parents that are looking to adopt children, let's say today? Um, what advice would you give them?
I would say, first of all, ask yourself why you want to adopt, and also do the work on why you wanted to adopt, because sometimes families adopt because of infertility.
Yes.
And they want a child so badly that they want to adopt. And when the child arrives, sometimes they manage to have their own children. And then there's breakdown with that adoption. It doesn't always happen, but it does. So I would advise people to really think about what are the reasons why they're adopting. Is it specifically for your own needs, or is it for the child needs? So making that separation, and really check yourself that you are prepared to adopt, because if you're still having issue about your own fertility, and that is going to impact the child that you're going to adopt, I would say think twice. Or any other issue that you might have. You know, I do talk to adoption agency, and I always say, you know, I feel like parents who adopt should also go through therapy before adopting the child, to make sure that they've got no baggage that they're bringing that can impact the child. Because even me being adopted and raising my daughter, I know that I've carried on some of my trauma into her. So anybody who's raising a child can bring their own trauma into that child. So for me, that's when I ask parents to check themselves that there is nothing in their history that's going to be later on down the line that might impact that child. So yeah, understand why you're adopting, and be prepared. But also, I think, be prepared before, but also when the child arrives. So if you are wanting to adopt a child from Africa, learn about that child culture. Surround yourself with people that child can look up to, that look like them. Don't just isolate them into your own culture. So the work needs to be done before the adoption and during the child is growing up as well. And have that continuous communication with that child, be open to them, because it's not an easy journey for them.
No, great advice. Great advice. I really like what you even said about adopting a child, whether it's for you or for the child. That's really powerful. Because sometimes for a lot of people that have had the journey of infertility, which I cannot speak for them completely, it's just, I guess you get to a certain point where you decide, I want to adopt just so I can have a child, maybe because of culture, the pressure from family and stuff. But do you really want that child, or is it for you and to please everybody? As to we now have a child, as per se, because every family is different. I remember when I first got married, my own mother was giving me pressure to have children. So for a lot of Africans, I'm sure you can all relate to this, as to you gotta have a child. You get married, 2 days later you should be pregnant, and you should have a whole bunch of kids next to that. But for a lot of parents that are thinking of adopting, let's listen to this advice, which is really powerful, really powerful. You're giving a lot of voices to your fellow adoptees. What have you learned through this process? Listening to their stories, what has your podcast given to you?
I think for me, it's been really beautiful to see how, like I said earlier, our stories are so different, but at the same time, there's commonality on the experience that we are going through. And I think also seeing when people, reach out to me and ask to be on the podcast has been really beautiful as well, because suddenly people are feeling that they're being heard and seen by sharing their stories. So and I think mine is, because it's specifically for Black adoptees, there's sometimes it's difficult to find that community of Black adoptees. There's a lot of Asian adoptees out there, and a lot of South American, but I suppose with the Black community, we might be quite dispersed at times. So having a place where you can come together and listen to each other's story has been really important for a lot of people. And yeah, I mean, I'm still learning, even though I've been going through my own adoption journey. With each podcast episode, I'm learning so much, because, like I said, the stories are so different, and people's experience. Every time I hear when there is a breakdown in the family structure for adoption, it's always break my heart, because I'm like, how can this happen? If decided to adopt a child, but yet, no. And that's the reason I say be prepared, because you cannot give up on that child halfway through the process. And it happens a lot, unfortunately. I've had people in my podcast who are by themselves now because they no longer have a relationship with their adoptive parents, and then they don't have a relationship with their birth family. So they are just left by themselves. I've had another lady who actually do quite a lot of work with. A brother lost his life for addiction, for overdose, because he could never understand his own adoption journey, and he struggled all his life with drug, and drug was his way of coping. So, and the family, where are the family when those things happen? When the child is not feeling good in themselves, they're feeling lost. That is a time family need to be there for those children, and this is not the time to back up. And it's the same, some families has breakdown as well when the child decides to go and find their own birth family, and then the family feel their insecurity that this child is abandoning them now, because I've raised them all this time, but now the child is going to look for another family. So if you're not that secure in yourself, that breakdown will happen. Again, there's other story where adoptees go and find a birth family, and the mother doesn't want to acknowledge them. There's so much that I'm learning, because for me it's like, okay, we portray adoption in a romantic way, that we're providing a child with a house and a home and a loving family, but there's so much happening in that journey for each individual. And I knew for my own journey it wasn't easy, but when I listen to every single stories, it's always, there's something always like really find it difficult to understand how this happened, how the system let people down in a way, because the whole idea is to help this child, but this child is now as an adult struggling. And yeah, so I am learning. I think people are learning as well, and that's a good thing, because even people like you mentioned, if they've not been for adoption, I've got a lot of friends who didn't even know I was adopted, because again, that is one thing. We don't walk around in the street with this label, I am adopted. So a lot of people didn't even know I was adopted until I started this podcast. And that's also creating a lot of conversation again outside the adoption space, which has been also very nice, because people that are not adopted also learning about that space and that journey. So for me, it's been really positive in a lot of direction, both from the adoptees themselves, but also from people who have not been adopted, but also for parents who might want to adopt children of a different race. By listening to the journey of adult adoptees, they will learn a lot and that could support them in their own journey if they want to adopt.
For sure, for sure. And even for those that are early on into adoption, they can also learn on how to navigate and take care of their child. I guess in a way
Yes.
that's more supportive for the both of them. You've shared a lot of insight. Therapy is huge. I'm big on that. I think both um, the parents and the
And the
children should be
child.
going, because we all have our own baggages that we carry. It's really great insight as to what you've shared with us. I appreciate you for being so honest and open with your story. Um, Anything else that you're working on that you would like for us to support you? I know you are a part of a theater in your community. Anything?
Yes, I've got the whole creative side that, I want to develop even more because I am focusing so much in the adoption space at the moment. But yeah, I've got the whole, my big dream is actually taking some young children to Africa on an educational trip at some point
Oh,
in my life. So that's part of for the platform of the arts. So that's why I did my whole exhibition around African queens. So I wanted to take those children to explore some of those heritage. But I'm also
my kids are available. My kids are available.
yes, I'll keep that in mind. But I am also organizing a retreat for Black women adoptees next year. So I'm organizing one in Portugal, one in Morocco, and probably one in Senegal next year.
Oh.
So that's what I'm working on at the moment. And if you know
Why those
any,
countries?
well, Portugal, because I am here at the moment, and it's easy enough for me to organize
Got it.
uh, activities, and I can navigate the space easy enough. Morocco, because I went last year and I found this like a farm run by this Moroccan family near Marrakesh that I really fell in love, and I thought it would be a perfect space to bring people
Together.
together in that
Right.
space. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, my idea is to go to Africa to do this for Black adoptees. That's why I'm hoping by the end of next year I'll do one in Senegal. But I wanted to start those first two with places that have been first, so which is for me, I suppose, to organize.
Yeah.
But yes, if you know any Black women adopted out there, do share with them, and I would love to have them come. So it's a mixture of cultural exploration, but also exploring our adoption journey and self-development. So it's all
Yeah.
those
No,
three.
once you have the link, I'll share on our
Mhm.
platforms, and I also have your contact info on how they can follow you on your social media as well.
Yeah,
So this way,
amazing,
once the program is launched, everybody can, sign up for the retreat that qualifies. Um,
amazing. Thank you.
yeah, no, this is exciting. It's exciting. It's a really great work that you are doing, and you're giving to so many people, including some of us. Um, I'd love to learn, and this is one particular area where I was like, wow, I didn't see this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a
Yeah.
lot of people don't.
Yeah, no, I did not see
Uh,
this one. So I was
yeah,
like,
and I think it's like anything else, if you're not experiencing that, why would you know? Because, there's so many things in the world that we don't experience, but we don't know.
mhm,
So it's by sharing stories that we all learn different way. Yeah.
1,000%, 1,000%. At this point in your life, have you found your concrete pastures?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think I'm still on my journey of trying to find it. I think I've been going through different, again, navigating different space because like you introduced me, I work in education, I work in
Yeah,
fashion, I
yeah,
work in the art space and the non-profit, and now I'm trying to do work in the adoption space. But I think ultimately, what's my concrete Pasture is about supporting other people and serving other people and helping them to get to a better place, to be a better person. So I think I'm starting doing it. I'm not totally there, but I would say I've started that journey, and I am happy how the journey has been. It's not always been easy, but I think that's the way we grow as a person. You know, you have to go through the ups and downs of life and grow to reach just concrete pasture. So I think I am heading there. I'm not totally there, but I've done some part of the journey.
Nice, nice. Just from what you said just now, that you want to be in the adoption space, what type of work are you looking to do in that space?
I mean, at the moment, for me, it's just providing a space for people to share their stories and for us to come together and share those stories. I don't know where this is taking me, because I actually never thought that I will be working in the adoption space. You know, if you asked me this 10 years ago, I would have said no, no way. So I think for me, eventually is merging probably my creative practice, yes, with the adoption space. So one of the things that I would like to explore is, because I've done some short film on African histories, maybe you know, like doing documentary about my own story, going back to Madagascar and documenting it through a film and share that for other adoptees to see. Because maybe there is a lot of people out there who think about going back to their own country but not sure. So sharing that journey is something that I would like to document at some point. So maybe when I go in 2025, maybe I will go for film crew. Who knows? So we'll see how it goes.
Christelle, this has been amazing.
No, thank you. It's been great speaking to you too.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you making time for us and for being so open with your story. It's been an honor.
No, thank you so much. It's been great. Thank you. And thank you for providing the space for all of us as well.
Oh, thank you.